And welcome to Tech Fridays, where today we're looking at some of the different coding or programming apps and sites that you can look at. This week we're looking at Scratch, probably the original, well, in fact, the original visual programming site, the one that really started this entire trend in terms of making learning how to program and code accessible to students, to schools, to the general public. What you might not know about Scratch that's a little bit interesting is it's actually it was originally a joint project between a Canadian company out of Montreal, and most people know that it's the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Their particular department, which is known as the Kindergarten Learning Club, were the two groups that originally made Scratch back in 2003. So Scratch is actually, they are now celebrating their 17th year. They have gone through several versions now. The latest version, Scratch 3.0, just came out last year. And the biggest function associated with it is you can actually put a text to type function is now part of it. They've also associated themselves with Google Translate, so you can actually change. No longer you can use whatever language that you want, not just English, but any other language that Google Translate works with as well. So that was really the biggest changes that Scratch 3.0 has came out with, and it just completed its beta testing a couple years ago. So when we talk about visual programming, it uses different languages. Lots of times it'll be called Blockly. And really it's the one that the beginning programming codes that you see today, Scratch was the one that really started all of it. So when you talk about coding with Chrome, Google Blockly, Roblox, some of the EV3 Mindstorms with Lego, all those different programs are actually really borrowing from Scratch and what they originally set out. So again, when you look at their platform, very similar to a lot of the other ones that you've seen. You have all your categories along the side here, and if you weren't aware, EV3 Mindstorms actually basically copied off of Scratch, and so you might see a lot of similarities between that. And so you have your motion. You'll notice along the top here, we actually have our code, our costumes, and our sounds. And if you weren't aware, and this is a fairly new one that's came out, you can create your own music. In fact, compose your own music through Scratch using that sounds function. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but there are a lot of different things. And from my standpoint, if you're wanting to get a basic understanding of how to create audio files, how to create these types of movies and put video and audio together, the different things to be aware there, this is a really good beginner course to kind of understand the different things that sounds do, understand what the wavelengths look like and that type of thing. But for our purposes, we're really going to be looking at the code portion, and it's simply called visual programming or blocks because when you put a block out like this, there's actually it represents a line of code that you would normally see like in JavaScript or Linux coding or those types of things. So if I put my little block out here, and I'm going to see if, I think I need to get my sound. So I've got my motion where my sprite is going to move my 10 steps. You'll notice down here, it gives you your sprite right off the bat, which is simply known as sprite 1. We can change those though. Again, in terms of costumes, that's where you would be able to change the way your sprite looks. You also have, if I scroll down, that's one of the things that's happened with 3.0 is now they've actually listed it all together here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my flag in there. And so my line of code says when the green flag is clicked, my sprite is going to move 10 steps. And so I click on my green flag and my cat moved 10 steps. And if I click on the flag again, it's going to move 10 steps again. And so as I continue down, we can look at, these are our events. You have your control functions. If I wanted to, for example, put that in forever, if I click on my green flag, now, oh, he stopped once he got to the end. So again, lots of different things. If you're one that has an understanding of coding, this is where you can really take it up another level, and that you have the ability to actually make your own code now. So if through some of your experience with, for example, Python language that we've looked at before with Lynx coding, all of that, you can create that line of code and make your own block and add that in with this as well. So there's a whole lot of things that can be done with this, which is pretty cool. But the reason I wanted to focus on for it today is May 11th traditionally is Scratch Day. And it's one where Scratch clubs from all over the world and Scratch educators from all over the world will come together and create just different blocks and collaborate and do different things together. And that traditionally would happen on May 11th. However, for this year with COVID and all the self-isolation that we're doing, you will notice that Scratch has actually changed the month of May into the entire month. So no longer are we celebrating Scratch on May 11th, we're actually celebrating Scratch on the entire month of May. And so if you go to day.scratch.mit.edu, you will see that they actually have a lot of different things at play here. And if I jump over to some of the things that they've got happening, they have during the month of May are sharing a series of weekly themes. And if we went to, and again, you'll notice that we've got Scratch at home. If you wanted to tweet out anything that you've done, you have that ability. Upcoming events or some of the, if we click on that, you will see some of the events where you can actually work with other people. You'll notice they're doing a free online course during this time. If you want to join with LCL, again, you'll notice that Scratch Month and so on. There's ongoing events where every Tuesday there's a 1-hour live stream with the Scratch team. Anyone is welcome to come. And so they do that every Thursday from 1 to 2 right now, Eastern time, depending on where you're watching. So if you're someone that's been working on a Scratch project and want to start connecting with other people, that's a great place to check that out. But again, if we go and take a look at what our themes are this past week, we were looking at recycling. Next week, they're kind of focusing on mental health. How do you peace out? Design projects that help you and others feel calmer. And this is where you really get to see the flexibility of Scratch, whether that's music, maybe you want to compose your own music, maybe you want to tell a story in a visual way where you have your character kind of show what your typical day looks like, or have your sprite show what are the kinds of things you like to do that help you relax. Same way, even from a math standpoint, you can focus on maybe you like to build something, maybe you like to draw something, and so you would have your sprite actually develop that that object or whatever it is that you want to build. And so that gives you some ideas of, in terms of what Scratch is, the flexibility that it has. If you do decide to start joining and becoming part of the Scratch team, please know that you are joining 54 million other users, which makes the Scratch program the #1 visual programming actually just coding and programming in general worldwide. So there are lots and lots of resources, lots and lots of tutorials, anything that you'd ever want to learn. And the Scratch team are really accessible, easy to work with. Even if you wanted to just join in on the occasional Thursday and talk with them and get some ideas on how to get started, they're always helpful and willing to work with you in that fashion. So hope that helps, and stay safe, folks. Thank you very much.